Playwright George Bernard Shaw said, "The single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place." Good old George really hit the nail on the head with that one. How many times have you thought you said something clearly only for your team members to have a completely different interpretation? You thought you were on the same page, but then the product turned out a totally different color or style. You probably committed one of the top 5 communication mistakes new leaders make. Not to worry, today we're going to discuss these mistakes and how you can avoid them in the future. I'm Lauren, your go-to guide for navigating the challenges of leadership. Having spent over 15 years working with teams and leaders, I've seen it all: the one-on-one awkwardness, the feedback fumbles, and the nerve-wracking presentations to upper leadership. But fear not, I'm not just here to point out the pitfalls, I'm here to equip you with the tools you need to go around them. Now, you may be asking me, but Lauren, why is good communication so important? Can't my team just read my mind? Well, you probably know that your team can't actually read your mind, but let's look a little deeper as to why this communication stuff is so important, especially as a new leader. First, it builds trust by ensuring your messages are consistent and understood. And trust is the bedrock for any high-performing team. Good communication also fosters collaboration. Especially in the early stages of leadership, effective communication turns a group of individuals into a cohesive, high-performing team. It ensures everyone is on the same page, promoting collaboration and a shared sense of purpose. It also mitigates potential future conflict. Miscommunication is the breeding ground for conflict. Hone your communication skills to minimize misunderstandings and maintain a positive work environment. Proactive addressing of potential issues prevents sparks from turning into raging fires. On a more positive note, clear, good communication is also inspiring and motivating for you and your team. Remember, leadership is more than delegating tasks, it's about igniting and energizing your team. Clear communication conveys your vision, goals, and expectations, leading to a motivated and engaged team. Good communication is also key for navigating change. In today's dynamic work environment, and really the world, change is inevitable. Effective communication guides your team through transitions, be it a shift in strategy, restructuring, or adapting to new challenges. It's the compass that keeps everyone heading in the right direction. So whether you're leading a project, giving feedback, or fostering a positive work culture, mastering the art of communication is the bedrock of building a highly collaborative, high-performing team. Now that we know why it's so important, let's dive into the specific mistakes new leaders often make, and more importantly, how to steer clear of them. Mistake number 1, procrastinating difficult conversations. Imagine a scenario. You've identified a team member whose performance is falling short and the discomfort sets in. The temptation arises to postpone the conversation, hoping that somehow things will improve all on their own. Spoiler alert, it's never that easy. One of my past clients, Sarah, really dreaded having those difficult conversations. She knew she should, but they were so awkward and painful. She had one specific employee who was not following company processes, which was putting their program funding in jeopardy. Without the right paper trail, they couldn't bill their clients accurately. The first step is understanding why these conversations are so important. By avoiding them or sweeping issues under the rug, you're really doing a disservice to your team members. You aren't being the leader that they deserve. As a leader, it's your responsibility to make sure that everyone on your team has what they need to be successful. By depriving them of these conversations, you aren't setting them up for success now or in the future. One way to tackle these difficult conversations is to set up regular one-on-one check-ins. These discussions give you and your team member a chance to discuss what they're currently working on, struggling with, and level set expectations. If you want help running better one-on-ones with your team members, I have a free guide down below. By having these conversations regularly, you're giving an outlet for issues to arise and to hopefully prevent any problems from festering and escalating to the point that they need more intense intervention. Another strategy to overcome the procrastination trap is to cultivate an environment where team members feel safe sharing challenges without fear of judgment or repercussions. Open communication is the lifeline here. When your team knows they can openly discuss difficulties, it enables you to catch and address issues early, preventing them from escalating. One thing that my client Sarah learned was the importance of providing constructive feedback. We moved away from vague criticisms and focused on specific behaviors or performance. Through targeted feedback, Sarah not only conveyed expectations more clearly, but also inspired growth and improvement. And finally, a great way to avoid procrastinating these conversations is to avoid surprises by setting clear expectations from the beginning. Clearly communicate what is expected of each team member and work with them to make sure the goals and expectations are understood. This proactive approach builds a culture of accountability and mutual understanding within the team, reducing the likelihood of procrastination. Through our work together, Sarah came to realize that by avoiding talking with her team member about his issues, she was just perpetuating the outcomes he was causing. We worked together to form a plan of approach, and it turns out that the team members simply didn't understand the impact of what he was, or wasn't, doing. But she was able to prepare ahead of the conversation and have data to back up her concerns, and it made the conversation much less overwhelming and more manageable, and produced a good outcome for her and her team member. The second mistake that new leaders often make is the feedback sandwich. Unlike a tasty BLT, the feedback sandwich is not a delicious lunchtime meal. A lot of advice to leaders when giving feedback is to literally sandwich constructive feedback between two pieces of positive feedback. While it's intended to make constructive feedback land a little more softly, it can actually do more harm than good. Like our last mistake, this typically manifests during feedback sessions, especially when leaders want to provide constructive criticism while maintaining a positive tone. The feedback sandwich involves starting with a positive comment, delivering the constructive feedback, and concluding with another positive comment. The issue with the feedback sandwich is that the main message, the constructive feedback, can get lost. Team members may only hear the positive feedback and miss the constructive, or some team members will focus only on the negative and miss the positive. Or the message will get so muddled that none of the feedback lands and everyone ends up confused. To avoid the feedback sandwich, make sure you are giving direct and clear feedback. Instead of relying on the feedback sandwich, clearly spell out the areas that need improvement without pushing them between positive comments. This ensures that the message is straightforward and impactful. You should also separate positive feedback from constructive criticism. This approach allows team members to appreciate their strengths without overshadowing the areas that need more attention. By providing a distinct space for both positive and constructive feedback, the message remains clear and actionable. The next step is to foster an environment where team members feel comfortable engaging in an open dialogue about their performance. Encourage them to seek clarification and ask questions about the feedback they receive. This promotes a collaborative atmosphere where constructive criticism is viewed as a tool for improvement rather than a critique. Also, make sure to tailor your feedback to the team members' needs and goals. Generic positive comments probably won't resonate as strongly as personalized, specific feedback that speaks to specific contributions and areas for growth. This targeted approach enhances the relevance and impact of your feedback. So, while sandwiches may be great for lunch or a late night snack, they're not a good option for delivering feedback to your team. Another common mistake leaders make is only delivering important information or messages one time. Many leaders think that they only need to say something once and everyone will hear it and understand it the same way. The reality is that you should repeat your message in different ways to make sure everyone understands it. People learn and absorb information in different ways and at different speeds, so it's important to understand that and to accommodate. Saying it only once can happen almost anywhere, during team meetings, when giving instructions, or when introducing new initiatives. Leaders may mistakenly believe that stating something once is enough, leading to potential misunderstandings by the team. Assuming that giving information or expectations just once can result in a lack of understanding or entirely misunderstanding what you're trying to communicate. Team members may miss crucial details or key points, which may mean that they choose the wrong approach, don't understand the context, or otherwise act incorrectly. Repetition helps reinforce important information and ensures that it resonates with the team. So, how do we make sure that our message is heard? First, embrace repetition. From your perspective, you'll probably think, I've already said this, why am I saying it again? But remember that everyone is learning at different speeds and likely only absorbing part of the message each time. By repeating yourself, ideally in different ways, you're helping reinforce the information and giving your team a chance to absorb it multiple times to catch the things they may have missed the first time. Repetition doesn't diminish the message, it strengthens it. Second, communicate through different methods and channels. By diversifying, you're improving the chances of meeting your team where they learn best and giving different opportunities for absorbing the information. Try following up a team meeting or one-on-one with an email summarizing the key points, or referencing the content of an email in a face-to-face discussion. This multi-channel approach increases the chances that information is understood and remembered. Third, encourage team feedback on how information is communicated. Create an environment where team members feel comfortable seeking clarification or providing feedback. Encouraging open dialogue helps to ensure that any misunderstandings are addressed quickly, and it allows you to gauge the team's understanding of important messages. Is this sounding a little familiar? Creating an open, supportive environment with your team will really help your communication come through more clearly. Finally, when conveying crucial information, highlight key points to emphasize their significance. Clearly articulate the main takeaways to ensure that they are not missed. You can do this verbally by repeating the information, or if you're doing a presentation, show the key points multiple times. This helps in memory retention and reinforces the importance of the communicated message. How are you re-emphasizing your messages? Comment below with how you make sure your message is heard on your team. Maybe you have a new approach that I haven't heard before, or will help someone else. The fourth communication mistake new leaders should avoid is talking before they listen. This happens when leaders focus on the information they want to convey without first taking the time to actively listen to their team members. This habit can stifle collaboration and makes building trust extremely difficult. This can happen anywhere you're trying to communicate with your team members, either one-on-one or in a group, but especially when you're trying to make decisions. As a leader, you may feel like you have the best or most important information and want to pass it along and move on to quickly making the decision. However, failing to listen before speaking can lead to misunderstandings, misinterpretations, and missed opportunities. It undermines the collaborative spirit within a team and may make team members feel undervalued. Effective leadership communication is a two-way street that requires attentive listening as much as clear expression. So, how do we make sure we're listening before we speak? First, create an environment where team members feel empowered to share their ideas and perspectives. Encourage active participation in discussions and decision-making processes. Valuing diverse opinions enriches the overall team dynamic and leads to more well-rounded decisions. For example, in a meeting where a decision has to be made, have the most knowledgeable person state the problem to be solved, and then pose a few questions to the team to get their input. Ask if anyone has anything to add or needs further clarification. Then, prioritize active listening by giving your full attention to whomever is speaking. Avoid thinking about your response while the other person is talking. Instead, focus on understanding their perspective, thoughts, and concerns. This shows your team that you are listening and invested in their thoughts and opinions, and not just waiting for your turn to speak. After a team member has shared their thoughts, take a moment to summarize what you've heard and confirm your understanding. This not only shows that you were actively listening, but also helps to clarify any potential misunderstandings before responding. Finally, be open to receiving feedback from your team. Leaders who are receptive to feedback create a culture of trust and openness. Acknowledge that everyone's input is valuable and be willing to adjust your approach based on the insights shared. And be genuine about your openness. Don't get defensive if you hear feedback you disagree with. Thank the person for sharing and consider their feedback thoughtfully before immediately jumping to a response. Before we get to the final communication mistake, if you found this video helpful or informative, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and the bell so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. The fifth and final mistake is not communicating enough. This one may come as a surprise to some leaders because you feel like you're constantly communicating. But there's a difference between talking a lot and actually effectively communicating. Often, leaders are saying a lot, but not saying the things that their team needs to hear, such as information about goals, expectations, or changes within the organization. This can result in confusion, uncertainty, and a lack of alignment. So, how do you communicate enough and actually say the important bits? First, define clear communication channels. Whether it's regular team meetings, email updates, or project management tools, having clear channels helps facilitate the flow of information. Then, set expectations for how and when you communicate with the team. This includes how often updates will be provided, the format of communication, and the channels through which important information will be shared. Setting expectations creates a consistent communication rhythm. Next, be transparent about organizational changes, project updates, and any information that may impact the team. Transparency builds trust and ensures that team members are well informed, fostering a sense of inclusion and shared responsibility. And it makes sure the team has all the information they need to be successful. And finally, regularly seek feedback on the effectiveness of your communication. Understand how well informed your team feels they are and whether or not there are areas for improvement. Act on feedback to continuously enhance your communication strategy. If you need help with your communication, check out this video next. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time. Mistake number 2, the feedback sandwich. Could use a sandwich. This is crooked. So cool. That was dumb, but oh well.